In the first members of the Sports Source family over here. Jimmy Himes right there, VFL Mike Stoll right here, one of the angry texters. Right here we have VFL Will Overstreet, and right there we got Bob Hodge. Thanks to all of you for being here today. Most of us said that Tennessee couldn't afford to start slow against Vandy the way they did against UTEP. Well, they didn't start slow. They went down fast. They were down 14-0 5 minutes into that game thanks to a kickoff return and a fumble. Dylan Sampson with, I think, his fourth first-quarter fumble of the season. So you're down 14-0. It didn't look good. But kind of like Georgia the night before, you turned it around. Thankfully, you didn't need 14 overtimes to get it done. But Tennessee handles Vanderbilt 36-23 yesterday. This segment's top takeaways. Will Overstreet, I start with you. Top takeaway from the Vols' comeback win.
How resilient and highly confident this team is at this point in the season. I mean, when you go down 14-0 with everything on the line, I just think you saw it across a lot of other teams. There are a lot of teams that folded, a lot of teams that couldn't come back, that couldn't fill. This team has been such a slow starter and has so much confidence, I believe, in their defense or something. Because if you take that first quarter out, from then on, this game was a total rout. This game was a total blowout. Physically, from top to start to finish, Tennessee beat Vanderbilt every way possible. Take the first quarter out. It's just like that team at times just needs that kickstart, but they take a shot in the mouth and they go, okay, it's a fight, and then they get into the fight. So I just took away is I think this team has a lot of confidence to be able to handle that down 14-0 and then just come back and pile it on and turn it into a really not as close a game as the score looked.
Tennessee has had a lot of really good showings against Vanderbilt over the past 100 years almost. But this one actually means something because it wasn't the typical Vanderbilt team, getting down 14-0 and the resilience. But I think you come away from this game, I think this was Tennessee's best performance of the season. I mean, it's Vanderbilt, and when you say it, people laugh. A quality opponent.
Beat Alabama.
You're at their place, and you did what you did both offensively and defensively. And so this is a Vanderbilt performance unlike, say, 2 years ago. Hooker gets hurt. Yeah. They go there and it's, oh, man, look how great we played. That was a terrible team. Yeah. This wasn't. So I think this win means something beyond all the connotations you have that come after it.
Yeah, I think it discredits what Tennessee did if you look at it and say, well, it's the same old Vanderbilt. In the second half, you kind of made it look like the same old Vanderbilt for a time. But Diego Pavia, who you pretty much shut down through the air, he had terrorized a lot of teams in this league. There's talk of him as possible SEC Offensive Player of the Year for most of this season. So to go in there and do what you did to him, don't discredit that by saying, well, I knew they'd blow out Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's nothing. This isn't your granddaddy's Vanderbilt team. Thoughts? Top takeaways?
Yeah, I think, the night before with Georgia Tech, rivalry week is always difficult. And you know what Vanderbilt brings. I agree with the resiliency that they showed. I also think the way that other players stepped up, right? You had Nico play his best game of the SEC. You had receivers go down, and you had Brazel. Kitzelman continue to roll. Dante Thornton finally broke away. I think you saw an offense find solutions against a good defense in Vanderbilt where they were actually able to, other players step up and produce points and not have to rely on a Dylan Sampson.
We'd been waiting on it all year, calling for it all year, begging for it all year. You finally saw a shortish pass that your receiver took 50 yards for the last 50 of the 86 or the last 60 of the 86. You finally saw one of the receivers get some yak yardage and help the quarterback a little bit with the Dante Thornton nice play. Yeah. Jimmy, top takeaway.
Several things, and I agree with Will's point about you got hit in the mouth and then you came back. Alabama didn't, right? They couldn't get over it. But here's the biggest thing that I saw. This is a team that wins in a variety of ways, and even within that game. So after Vanderbilt took the big lead, Tennessee outscored them 36-3 until they got in the fourth quarter. In the first half, they scored with an up-tempo offense. In the second half, what did they do? They milked the clock. Mm-hmm. If you look at time of possession in the second half, it's ridiculous. Tennessee ran 41 plays, Vanderbilt ran 10 in the second half. And Tennessee ran out the last 6 minutes of the game. That's a little bit of a different style from Josh Heupel. You've won with defense, you've won with up-tempo, you've won with slowing it down. This team has found ways to win in different ways, and that's one of the things I like about this team.
It's funny. It started early on when they went to Oklahoma, and we saw them, take the foot off the gas, pull it in a little bit, be safe, hold on for the win. It's like, okay, let's give him credit for winning a new way. Then it became, oh, he wasn't winning a new way. It's just this offense can't do much. It's wildly inconsistent. Now I think toward the end of the season you're seeing, no, you're back to being able to win in multiple. I think you're correct. I think it is winning in a variety of ways. Yesterday, 538 yards of total offense. That's the best against any SEC foe this year for Tennessee. Wow. So the offense, we'll get to that in our confidence level in the offense later. The offense is on the upswing, it would appear. I mean, they're still inconsistent. There's no question. But it does seem that Nico is getting a little bit more comfortable. It does seem that the offense in general is taking a step forward.
Look at the balance. 281 rushing, 257 passing. That's pretty darn good.
And it seems like you've improved. Your offensive line has gotten better. You've got pretty good tight ends, which coming into the season, that was a question mark. I think everywhere but your wide receivers, if you go back, you can say, okay, this has gotten better as the season has got on. Now, it hasn't been a straightforward curve. I mean, it's gone like this.
And it's different groups taking the step forward in different games.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what made this game seem like the most complete game.
Yeah, but then seeing those big plays and seeing not only that, but it was a different set of guys. You know, Thornton has had some big plays, but you had some other guys get some big plays as well.
Mike Matthews, we've been talking about all year.
Comes in the game and he plays, and you're like, okay, there's a mixture here. There's different guys. Just like we've seen on the defensive line and defense all year, you could rotate in whoever, and all of a sudden new number shows up, makes a big play. You kind of started having that on offense, and that was what was encouraging about this game, is to see the different mixture of numbers make plays, and you go, oh, okay, well that's something now that if I'm watching tape as a defense coordinator going against you, I go, okay, well it's not just these three guys that I have to worry about. Maybe this guy's starting to show something that puts something on tape.
I'll be curious to see, and I think that's a great point, the depth. You've got 3 weeks to get healthy, but now all of a sudden you start getting players back that are making plays, or you have multiple options. I think you're right. You have a lot more to think about as a defensive coordinator going against the offense. And then again, I think our defensive depth is going to be huge as you move on.
And the one other thing I think it adds into it is teams have not been playing us like they used to. Like everybody used to go for it on fourth down because they're like, we're going to be in a track race.
Yeah.
Right.
Now they have to wonder, are we going to be in a track race or are we not going to be in a track race? Does this team get hot? So that causes you to make some different decisions early in the game that may make you make a bad decision.
I think the key over the next 3 weeks, obviously, what is the health of Dylan Sampson and his hamstring? I don't think anybody likes seeing him grab the hammy or limp off after the game. Brew McCoy didn't play. Dante Thornton left the game. All right, Spraggins limped off. I'm not sure of his situation.
Squirrel White.
Squirrel White. That's right. He was hurt late on the. Yep. So you've got some offensive pieces with the main guy, Dylan Sampson. You got to get that healthy by December 20th, December 21st, when Tennessee will be playing in their first playoff game, which is a heck of an accomplishment. And we'll talk about that when we come back on the Sports Source. The best player on the field, the worst decision, the biggest disappointment. We'll cover all that. Then we'll show you 14 playoff projections and where the experts have Tennessee. Come on back on the Sports Source.